Let me introduce to you a great friend of mine, our special guest tonight. He is actually the director of development over small groups at a little tiny church you may have heard of. I'll let him tell about it, but Saddleback Church with Pastor Rick Warren. And he is the development director there, so he helps coach and consult churches probably around the world, but I know at least across the nation, does training, equipping, helping people in the season, doing church from home, watching online, those types of things. We're going to dive into that, but also helps right now, assists in helping oversee, listen to this, over 9,000 groups at Saddleback. So that's no small task. So this guy has a lot to pour into us. So will you guys welcome in the comment section my friend, Pastor Derek Olson from Saddleback Church. Welcome, Pastor Derek.
Thank you. This is awesome. Honored to be on with you guys tonight. I love, first of all, let me say, I'm sorry that I lost my hair. So
Yes.
If you maybe saw some promo pictures promoting this tonight, yeah, I look a little different. I since lost my hair. I need to get a new profile pic, but it is me. This is Derek. So, hey, I just want to say I love Sacramento.
Yes.
Lived there for a few years. That's where Pastor Dean and I connected. And I love Real Life Church. I've got a couple of friends that have been a part of your church, including in Dean. So I feel like I know you guys, and just an honor to be with you. And I just got to say, I love Pastor Dean, and I promise he did not pay me to say what I'm about to say, but I just want to take a moment and reminisce, because I remember back when I lived in Sac, man, those were some amazing years for my wife, Julie, and I. We were doing youth ministry, and God was doing incredible things in our lives, incredible things in our ministry. Yet at the same time, man, there were some big challenges in our lives. And I remember being in a season where I was in desperate need of some seasoned mentors. And I began to pray, God, help me out. God, help a brother out. Help me connect with some amazing men of God, pastors, leaders. And one of those guys God sent along was Pastor Dean. And he was a big guy at a big church, busy like he is now, doing a million things, I'm sure. But what I love about Pastor Dean is he loves God. Obviously, he's an amazing leader. But you love people, man. And it meant so much that you would give me your time, meet me for coffee, and just listen. Just listen, smile, pour into me, give me those golden nuggets. And that really helped me get where I am today. So I want to say thank you.
Oh, man, you're welcome, man. And it's reciprocal, man, that your friendship is, I knew you before you had children. Tell us about your daughter.
That's right. So Julie and I have a 4.5-year-old. Her name's Azariah. And man, she keeps us young. We were married, 15 years before we had her. And so she's changed our lives. And breaking news, we just got her a puppy, because the isolation of this season was getting to her in some way. So we got her a puppy. She has a little pug. So if you find me on Instagram, you'll see pictures of her and the dog. It's hilarious. But we have a lot of fun. Let's just say I spent a lot of time playing Barbies throughout the week and all that crazy stuff.
So basically, getting a pet is like another child. So, right. Man, so that's awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking time to pour into the Real Life Church family. I've told you a little bit. We've started what we're calling the Church from Home Network. Obviously, COVID-19, has really shaken the church and has really requiring a new wineskin. I mean, you guys have not met like many other churches, but I know that you guys haven't met at all since March. But again, having 9,000 plus groups that are gathering, I'm guessing that's online. Tell us a little bit about just what's been happening at Saddleback during the last several months.
Yeah. So, man, COVID hit, like you said, everything has changed. So all of our weekend gatherings are shut down. There's nothing like that. But yeah, thank God we've always been pretty strong with, small groups, and similar a little bit to what you guys are launching with this Church at Home network. I love this idea, being the church right where you live. And so, man, our biggest work right away, once we saw what was happening with COVID and the shutdowns, was, man, we've got to get all of our small groups online. And so, as of today, we got most of them online. And so, man, we're just constantly encouraging people, man, enjoy the online experience on the weekends and get in a small group. Either join one or grab 2 or more friends and start one, because we believe life is not meant to be lived alone. We believe we're better together. We're not meant to be lived in isolation. And so there's so many, cool things God is doing despite the crazy circumstances. But we're a church, if you combine all campuses, I think we have 18, and that's spanning 4 continents. We're a church that, is 25, 30,000 if you put all the numbers together on a weekend, if people were showing up to church. But we're really proud to say we have more people in home groups,
Wow.
in fellowship, in community than actually attend on weekends.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What would you say as far as, a lot of people, I think we got to about Mother's Day, and you could just tell there was like a digital fatigue. How are you keeping your leaders engaged, excited, expectant? Obviously, you guys have been doing small groups for a long time, but, Zoom, I know people are like, I've heard like people are just zoomed out. What are you telling your leaders? How are you encouraging them during this season?
Right. No, great questions. With no weekend messages right now, no weekend gatherings, we're just constantly sharing testimonies of what God's doing. And so we're just constantly sharing the good things he's doing in the community, in lives. And, when you hear testimonies like that, it pumps you up. And so we, instead of being worried about not having the community come to our church building, right? We've put our energy as a staff, as a church, into how do we go out to the community, right?
Wow.
And so our church has seen some crazy, amazing milestones since COVID hit. One cool testimony is when every other food shelter or pantry in Orange County basically shut down, ours like exploded. And then we launched several portable pop-up food shelters, we call them. And it's so amazing because now we've got city governments, we've got 7 different school districts that are asking for our help, right? And so we've mobilized our church members, a lot of the staff who were, their roles were geared towards like the weekend experience. One of our mottos here is just be fast, fluid, and flexible. And it's been incredible to see so many staff members, so many volunteers that their service, again, centered around the weekend gathering, that's all gone. They've just made the switch to, man, we're going to go make this food pantry ministry happen. And a couple of cool stats is we've seen, we've provided over 1 million meals.
Wow.
We've fed over 165,000 people. And my favorite stat of all is we've seen over 5,000 people make decisions to follow Jesus since COVID started. Is that nuts?
At the food pantries.
At the food pantries, yeah. And so my favorite stat of all is if you combine total salvations, we've seen 10,000 total first-time commitments to Christ since COVID started, which is more than any stretch of the same time in our 40-year history.
Wow.
So God can literally take what seems bad, right, and inconvenient, and man, he turn it for good and change lives. So I think that's one of the keys to go back to your question of how do we stay engaged for the long haul. I think it's important to acknowledge these are tough times, right?
Yes.
And these are difficult times. And so, therefore, we've got to give ourselves a ton of grace as leaders, as church members, and we've got to give others a ton of grace. And one of my favorite scriptures is Romans 12, 9 and 10. And we've all heard it. You know, it says, don't pretend to just love others, right? Really love them. Hate what's wrong. Hold tightly to what is good. And here's my favorite part: love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. I love that. And that reminds me of the famous book title many of you have probably heard, that love does, right? Love is action. And so with all the change that we're all experiencing right now, all the emotions we're experiencing, all of the differing opinions we're hearing, right? All the social media posts we're seeing, there's never been a time, I think, than now to really try to put this into practice, to love one another, to give each other grace. So that's something we're constantly saying to our staff, to our small group hosts, is, man, just give people a lot of grace. And then another thing I would say to set this up is changing our methods. That's something big we've done. You guys have heard this saying, you know, methods may change, but the message stays the same, right? And the reality is things, again, have drastically changed. And we as the church must change our methods if we want to effectively share the message in our new reality, right? And what's the message? It's that Jesus saves, right? It's that he still heals, he restores, he provides, and that he can do more than we could ask or imagine. And so to get the message out, might need to change our methods. And that makes me think of like the Apostle Paul. And you know, when we read the scriptures in Acts, we see this guy's like, he's freer than free. He's traveling all over on these missionary journeys. He's preaching the good news to large gatherings, right? He's having all this fun, but then things change. And we see Paul getting locked down, right? And he's literally in jail. He's chained up, and he couldn't do everything he used to do the way he used to do it. And so Paul had to change his methods. We're talking about, you know, being the church where you live. Paul was being the church where he lived in jail, right? And so
On
he gets
lockdown.
out, he gets out pen and paper, and he uses what's in his hand, and he begins to be the church, and he starts writing these letters to the Romans and the Galatians and the Ephesians, right? And the Philippians, and to his spiritual son Timothy. And we see what God did, obviously. God turns what was inconvenient, painful, and uses it to impact
Isolated.
millions. Yeah, isolated. And the rest is history. We're here tonight, right? Because of what God did in this lockdown, this inconvenient time. And I believe we as the church today, like Paul, man, and if we can have that kingdom perspective and we can bloom where we're planted with what we have using different methods, man, God can do anything.
That's awesome. I just want to again welcome people that are signing on now. You're tuning in. This is my friend, Pastor Derek Olson from Saddleback Church. That's Pastor Rick Warren, the Purpose Driven Church. If you've read that book, that's the church that he's on staff with. This is the summer of equipping. And so I've decided to launch these equipping nights on Thursdays. We'll still do our midweeks with Pastor Damien on Tuesdays, which I'll be taking over next week because he's on vacation. But excited to have Pastor Derek with us. Going back to what you just said, the methods must change. The message never changes. What are some of the methods that, you know, some of your group leaders, I know during this time, we've got to get creative. We can't necessarily just wait, you know, for, I guess what I'm saying is the church to give us the idea. It sounds like you guys hit the ground with the food pantry. We started a food pantry. God is doing some amazing things, actually is doing some crazy things right now, which I can't wait to share with our church. Did some cool things today, connecting us with local partners. But what are some of the things that your leaders that are gathering in homes at this time, what's different? What's changing for them during this long season where they're not being able to gather corporately?
Right. Yeah, I would start by saying we're always reminding our people, our church members, that the church is not a building. We know that in theory, but when you don't have the building, it's another story, right? So we keep
Yeah.
reminding them, church is not a building. It's actually a community, right, of people. We love Jesus, we love each other, and so while we may not be able to meet in person in a building or in a small group family room like we used to, we can still connect with each other through online groups. So that's been the biggest shift, is the majority of our groups going from physical small groups in homes to virtual small groups online. And again, we've helped most of them to do that. And
How
so,
many online groups right now out of that 9,000?
oh man,
Just
I
a
would say,
ballpark.
yeah, guesstimate, I would say probably at least 7,000 are online.
Sheesh. Wow.
We had some that were really trickling back to physical before we had this second wave. And so my guess is, yeah, more now are back to online groups than before. So that was the biggest method shift. But from there, we're just always telling people, hey, make it fun. Again, have a kingdom mindset.
Love that.
Know that we don't have to be in a building or in a family room to have church, to have fellowship. We can do it online. Make the most of it. Get creative. Some things that we do is we say, hey, pick a platform that you're familiar with that works for you. One that obviously is most popular is Zoom. And then we're just trying to encourage them, laugh together. Have some time where you're laughing together. These are heavy times. So really encourage, man, do an icebreaker of some sort or something funny. Something my small group did recently online was everybody share, what was it? The last thing you ate and a nickname. It was something like that. It was hilarious. So just something dumb. Laugh together. That's usually a great time to get the kids involved. And then celebrate together. And I think this is key to really shift the atmosphere. What is God doing? Share testimonies, because that's contagious.
Mhm.
And celebrate what God's doing. And so a lot of that is based around the food pantry, because a lot of our people are serving at those. So have a time of celebration and sharing what God's doing, and then worshiping together. you know
Mm.
um, that can be someone leading. Obviously won't be the best audio quality, but that can be someone leading from an acoustic for a song, or screen sharing on Zoom and playing your favorite YouTube, and just kind of having a moment of worshipful prayer like that. And then obviously talk and grow together, um, whether that's discussing the weekend message with a couple questions, or maybe it's everybody watching a video curriculum like on Right Now Media, in advance of the group, and then just discussing it, grow together, and then especially pray together, right? That is so key in these times, is pray, pray, pray. And we're telling our people doing church at home and in small groups, again, content's great, curriculum, but don't get so caught up on that. Focus on caring, right? Focus
Ooh,
on
that's
being
good.
present.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
like that. Come on.
So those are some things we're doing. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges. Um, some of the biggest challenges that we've faced at Saddleback and that we're trying to address, obviously, is connectivity and relationships, right? So, again, the way we've tried to uh, facilitate that is through online small groups. But then, like, our family ministry. So, like, my daughter, she used to come to our church 2-3 times a week for dynamic kids ministry, and that was huge for her at 4 years old. And to have that taken away is just ouch. So
Mm.
with family ministry, one thing we've tried to address this is through doing these family ministry drive-throughs, right? Where,
Mhm.
like, everybody in this kids ministry age, they drive through in their car, and there's creative stuff in the parking lot. It's a drive-through. Um, Another obviously big challenge we've faced is the food issue and hungry people and people in need in this time. And so our answer has been the food shelters. Again, a huge issue has been racial reconciliation, and everybody dealing and grappling with that. And as a staff, Pastor Rick, man, he's committed to help lead the way on this issue for the church of justice and reconciliation long term. Like it's not going to just end. He wants to carry this and
Keeping it at the
like you guys
forefront.
are doing, man. Yeah, be at the forefront. So a lot of our staff meetings have shifted, right? To talking about regular business to literally pausing and having long conversations and listening and learning, grieving together, and then giving our groups resources to navigate these discussions as well. So these are some of the challenges. Another, actually on the staff call today, hope I don't get in trouble for saying some of this, but we were talking about one of the next big challenges we see coming, the next wave is, especially in California with schools going all digital this fall, is, man, the impact on families and kids. And so how can we as a church, how can we as small group members and church at home members come up with ideas and create teams around this to engage the schools? Because now we have favor with them, right? With the food pantries. How can we now partner with them and serve these families? So those are some of the challenges.
We were talking about that same thing as a staff this week and just talking about maybe doing a 3-hour socially distanced pop-up, with kids, just giving parents a 3-hour window of reprieve. I think one of the biggest things that we have heard as a team here at Real Life is like parents, they just need just a break, just a break. That's all we need is a break. And so, and there's always risk involved, right? But there is a way to do it now that, obviously you're trying different things, but, you guys are doing food pop-ups. Who would have known 5,000 people would have came to Jesus through some food pop-ups, right?
Right.
And so that's exciting. You mentioned the pop-ups. Kind of want to go back to that. Now your small group leaders are engaged in that. How many pop-ups do you have going off at that are driven, that are led by your small groups?
Oh man, there's so many pop-ups. So again, we are fast food and flexible. So we made a switch. All the staff, and again, so many amazing volunteers that have all these other jobs and ministries they serve in, basically just gravitated towards, hey, we'll help lead these pop-up food shelters. And so let me preface this by saying, we're really big on being a purpose-driven church. Mm-hmm. And so we coach our, anybody who attends our church is always hearing about being purpose-driven and growing in we call it the 5 purposes. So like we want our small group members and leaders, we want them to balance the 5 purposes. It really means we want you growing in your walk with Christ, right? We want you worshiping, fellowshipping, discipleship, ministry, and witnessing. And so to help them fulfill, especially like the evangelism and the serving ministry purposes, these food pop-ups have been critical to give them that outlet, right? And so a huge population of these food pop-ups, and we have like, I think 2 or 3 a week, every week. Some of them are bigger than others. Like I went to one last month in Anaheim, and it was crazy because the city and the school where this was at asked us to come help, right? So they provided like obviously the acreage to do this on. It was this huge area, but we provided all the manpower and the food, right? And so it was so powerful to literally see a line wrapped around forever pulling into this food shelter and seeing cars literally pull up, their trunks packed full of groceries, people waving to them, encouraging them. But the coolest part was as they left, is that our army of prayer, our prayer team was there, and just, hey, can we pray for you? And that's again where so many of those salvations were made. So again, a lot of those people were small groups, but it's just such a cool way to give them an outlet to serve. And again,
Yeah.
they're sharing those testimonies then in their group, right?
That's awesome, man. I mean, we are on the brink. For those of you that are watching, the last couple of weeks, we've brought 50,000 pounds of food to Natomas Unified School District. They've distributed it. This week, they said we can't take it anymore. We can't give it away fast enough, and so we are actually. I'm knocking on doors, community organizations. Hey, can you? I'm just thinking, what could happen if like we really caught the vision of this as a church from home, and just say we did a pop up at every neighborhood in the in the local park closest to our house, and we dropped a pallet of 72 boxes full of 20 pounds of fresh vegetables. I mean, that's really, talking about meeting a need. But anyway, I'm dreaming a little bit. I got a question for you, going back to just your, again, doing church from home. What does like folks watching, and you mentioned resources, so I'm going to get that. I know I've seen a couple of people mention the resources. Derek's going to mention some free resources that you can get. He also mentioned Right Now TV, which we're actually looking at renewing our membership through that, so that you can get as much as curriculum as you want. And so we're going to be working on those things for you guys. But what does church from home look like for you guys? Watching that Sunday message, or does some people watch it on a different day? What's that look like for you guys?
Yeah. So like, so for instance, in my house, like, let's say it's Sunday, and my wife and I will usually, actually, I'll watch the kids' church with my daughter first, and so, and that's a great resource for anybody that might need it too. We try to package it so that any church can use it. But I think it's just saddlebackkids.com. But so her and I will watch that, and it's really interactive. And, there's bubbles for her age and coloring, and obviously some worship and a message. It's animated. So we have a lot of fun with that, pretty high energy. And then from there, we'll dial up, our online church and enjoy the message and the worship. And I think it's so important in those moments to just shut down the distractions, put the phone away and don't cheat yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Engage, because God wants to speak to us through what's been prepared, right? Because this is our body. This is the body of Christ, and he's going to speak through that message, and he's going to change us through that worship. And so I think that's so key, is shut down the distractions and just receive. Again, these are crazy times, and if we don't take those Sabbath moments, man, we're really cheating ourselves. So that's what it looks like for us.
So are you saying I shouldn't make breakfast while worship is going on? And I was like, I shouldn't be making ham and eggs,
Eat that before, right? So that's kind of how church at home works for us. And then our small group, I know your guys are kind of combining it, church at home and small groups a little bit, it sounds like. But I would say our church at home is twofold. So it's kind of that, and then it's jumping on with our small group at least every other week, and enjoying life with them. And we try to keep it, again, online fatigue can be a real thing. So shorter is better in this season. So we try to cap it at an hour.
Ooh, I like that. So no more than an hour.
No more than an hour. That's kind of our commitment to each other. And we always remind each other, hey, we've got an hour. Let's make this as amazing as possible. And so again, we start out with something fun, just get us laughing, and then try to share, some testimonies of what God's doing. And then talk through either the message or a curriculum that we're doing together. And one feature I love is Zoom breakout rooms. I don't know if you guys have used that,
A little
especially
bit.
if those who you're gathering with, if it's a little bit bigger crowd, you could watch probably a simple tutorial and do it pretty quick. But it's amazing how you can pull everybody from meeting together, and you can do like guys in this breakout and girls in that breakout, or however you want to do it, and you can just get a little bit more intimate, right, and pray. And that's what we do. We pray for each other, and we call it good. And then we're really trying to step into finding more opportunities where we can all serve together. Whether it's at the food pantry, we've got a little kind of farm ministry where you can go and like pull vegetables and stuff and bring those to the food pantry. So stuff like that.
That's awesome. You've mentioned a lot about resources. Can you just give us a little bit of what you guys are using? What's some of the best curriculum out there? Maybe somebody right now would like to pull together a group and they're just looking for maybe a 4-week, how long do you guys recommend? What type of curriculum? There's a good question there from Michael Gaines out there. What's some of the best curriculum out there that you guys are using?
Oh man, great question. Now we're a little bit spoiled because anybody can go to saddlebackchurch.com/watch. We've kind of created our own watch page. And actually, if you create your own free account, you can, I think, enjoy all of our free curriculums there. So just a little insider, you do have to create an account. But so that's where we point most of our small group hosts and leaders is to our watch page. We've got curriculums that are so awesome on marriage. One great one is called How to Raise Your Kids Without Raising Your Blood Pressure. And that one's a fun one. And then we've got, 40 Days of Purpose, all kinds of curriculums, some old, some new. I would say right now, media, obviously you referenced that. They've got some great curriculums. One of my favorites that we've done at Saddleback is called Transformed. And that can be, I think, purchased at pastors.com. There's so many great curriculums out there. I would say it's key to get one that's between, no more than 8 weeks long, but between 4 and 6 is probably a sweet spot. Just so that you guys, you don't feel like it's the never ending series. And then a curriculum that has a video that's obviously no longer than 30 minutes, but hopefully about 20 minutes is key, because some curriculums are, they say they're a small group curriculum, but man, it's like an hour-long video, and it's like impossible to have a discussion after that.
The group is over after you're done. It's like, good night, everybody. If you didn't lose anybody during it, right?
Yeah, we're tired. Another great place for resources is smallgroupnetwork.com, and that's the ministry that I help lead. And we have a ton of articles and resources there. So if you go smallgroupnetwork.com/resources, you'll see all of our free articles. And a ton of those are written to like church at home leaders or small group leaders, right? Yeah. And all kinds of ideas from what to do with kids to how to do prayer, how to take your group online, all kinds of stuff. And there's even a keyword search bar where you can type stuff in and, your topics will come up.
Do you guys, there's a question that do you guys form groups by age, stage, or is it just a collective group? I'm sure you guys have just a variety of different groups.
Great question. Yeah, we give a lot of freedom and there's a ton of variety. We call it the two friends strategy. So we're always saying, man, join a group, but if you can, we'd love you to start a group. Grab 2 or more friends. And so we're kind of putting the onus on people, because for a while we were like a dating service where people wanted us to find the perfect group for them, right? That
man.
meets
Talk
on
about pressure.
Meets on Sunday at 4 p.m. No kids, no dogs. It was like it was a nightmare. And now we still have on our website what we call open groups that are kind of people can do a search and find, oh, I'm looking for seniors, right? Or I'm looking for young adults. We still have that, but we're trying
Yeah.
to focus our energy on you grab people in your world, two or more friends, start a group. It's so easy. Um, but the answer is yes. We've got everything. We've got open groups. We've got closed groups. Again, when we're gathering, we have physical groups. We have online groups. We have groups that are mostly in homes, and then we have groups at time. We call them central groups, where you can come to the church for a 4 week or 6 week stretch and do a group there to get comfortable. Two groups around tables, and then we try to connect you into a home group.
Now you guys, I know, are looking at the long haul as far as not gathering corporately again. What are some of your strategies on just keeping your leaders encouraged? What do you guys do to keep people, just encouraged and strengthened during this time? So, I think Barna just came out with a report that said one out of every three churchgoers right now has just disconnected, and it's kind of like when it kicks back up, we'll get back going again. How are you guys preventing that from happening at Saddleback?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, we are just trying to always share testimonies of what God's doing.
Let me stop
You,
you right there. Just a few testimonies of what you see God do in your group. You mentioned salvations,
Mhm.
outreach, just maybe even some personal stories out of your small group, I think would encourage some of our leaders tonight.
Yeah. So I mean, a real personal one for me, like I was having some horrible back pain like 2 months ago. And it was actually, I found out, due to just like my gym closing. I couldn't work out anymore. And literally my chiropractor explained to me how, dude, yeah, like you've lost muscle and your back slipped out literally due to not strengthening your core and this stuff. All that to say, I was in horrible back pain. And so um, it was so cool to have a small group. Obviously, my wife loves me and she's praying for me, but to have that brotherly connection, that fellowship with a group of believers, and to be able to say during prayer time, guys, I seriously need prayer. Like, this is bad. And just to have
Mm,
them pray for me, and literally, I felt God touch me that day, and slept better than I had in a long time. And so just again, the fellowship, the brothers and sisters in Christ praying for me, meant so much in a weird, strange time where there was a lot of pain, right?
mm,
That's one testimony. And another one would be in my small group. Again, I've got a 4-year-old daughter, and sometimes the budget can be tough. And I've been wanting to teach her how to ride a bike. And I think I just casually shared this in our small group, and it was so cool um, to get a text from one of my small group brothers, and he's like, "Hey, are you guys home? I want to stop something by." Yeah, sure, come by. And he comes over with his kid, and they wanted to present Azariah with a bike, and like
wow.
set it all up with training wheels and kind of showed us how to work it. And it was just so cool to be on the receiving end of just, man,
Mm,
just a gift. And obviously that meant so much for my daughter, but for me, it was like so key just to have, um, man, that kind of family, right? That would bless you like that. When you weren't even expecting it, they just heard a need and a desire, and they wanted to meet it. And I think in these
wow.
times, man, that is so important.
You mentioned that phrase because that reminds me, going back, you said, and I thought it was a powerful uh, principle that you shared, but you said one of the things that we're doing is focus on caring, what are some ways that you're encouraging or you're seeing your group leaders make that their focus? How are they doing that practically? Um,
Yeah.
Maybe share. I mean, bringing a bike over is awesome.
Yeah. We're always pushing, like if you watch our online weekend service, at the end, Pastor Rick he'll do a salvation call. And then he's always saying, um, again, if you're not in a small group, get in one. But then he's always challenging people, man, um, meet a need, right? Meet a need, serve, use your gifts, because that's actually going to make you come alive. If you're in a hole, if you're feeling dark and depressed, that God will use that to pull you out. And so how can you care for one another? One way that we've cared for people at our church in a big way, and that small group leaders have taken the lead on, is through this care calling ministry. So like, especially when COVID first hit, and we were kind of learning about the stats and how it affected the elderly more, a ton of people were scared. And so we literally made it a mission to call every member of our church, and that's a lot of people, um, call them up. And we had a little script we made, and hey, I'm calling on behalf of Pastor Rick and Saddleback, and I'm so-and-so, I'm a small group leader. And we
Wow.
called and we cared on people. And I'm a staff member, so the calls I did were some of the most rewarding stuff I've done since being here, because it meant so much to people to get a real person on the line that said, hey, we just want to see how you're doing. Do you need anything?
Yeah.
And if they needed food, we'd connect them to the food pantry, right? Or if they needed other help in other areas, we'd connect them to counseling or something like that. And so that was just a cool, tangible way for me and for so many other small group leaders and just ministry leaders to care for people. Call them up. And something I love what Pastor Rick says is just bring the ministry of presence. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to say a whole lot. Just be present.
Mm.
Sometimes the best thing you can do is just be there and listen. And so again, I would say that that's relevant to anybody watching, listening, is, man, just be present, ask questions and listen. You don't have to have all the answers. Just let Jesus love people through you.
Hey, I want to be just respectful of your time, and I appreciate you, uh, being online, pouring into our leaders. I just want to give you just anything else you would just share with our leaders, those that are watching, those that might be thinking about, maybe they're not involved, maybe they are involved, but just anything that you would just like to deposit into those that are going to be listening to this later or listening right now. And before you do that, I'm going to put a Zoom link in the comment section. We're going to have a lobby time if you guys would like to just connect with me. I think we're going to do what Pastor Derek has encouraged us to do. Just have some fun, chat it up. I've seen some of your questions as it pertains to real life. And so we could talk about those, but maybe just having a brief time of just sharing and encouraging one another before we call it a night. But Pastor Derek, again, thanks for being with us, but just some last things that you would encourage us with.
Yeah, I would share one more quote from Pastor Rick, just because he has so many and I hear him all the time. This quote almost feels prophetic, because he said it over a year ago at one of our small group events to a group of leaders just like you guys. And again, this was way before we knew COVID was going to hit. But he was talking about the epidemic of loneliness in the world, and like how this is such a real deal in America and even in Europe, where they now have a minister of loneliness, which is like a cabinet member who battles this issue culturally, because the suicide rates are so high and the depression rates. And so that was the context. But he said, what the world needs more than anything else in our society today is the antidote to loneliness. And where are they going to get it? Small groups. And I would say, where are they going to get it? Church at home groups, right? They're going to get it from us. And so I think, going back to kind of my initial thoughts, is give yourself a lot of grace in these times. Man, give each other grace. Give your family members grace. Give your fellow church at home members grace. Because these are crazy days. Love people, and you'll be tested in that when you see that social media post flies by that you don't agree with, right? And you're thinking, I thought they were saved. But that's when it takes, God, help me to love them. And I think that's the test. Would I still sit down and would I have them over to my home? And could we agree on Jesus, right? Could we agree on what unites us and focus on that and talk about that? And then just change your methods, instead of complaining, we can't meet. And I know that sucks. We can't gather. Focus on, man, what can we do? Again, back to Paul. What can we do to reach people? And what can we do to love people where they're at? What can we do to just be Jesus and, be passionate about what he's doing in the earth, because he's doing so much. Just from what I'm hearing about you guys at your pop-up food pantry and ours, so many people coming to Christ that never would have really had this event not happen. So that's I guess my final words is, man, stay hopeful, and I believe eventually, hopefully, this is gonna fade away, right? But until then, we still got work to do. So let's go.
Awesome. Hey, Derek, thanks for being with us. I want you to one more time tell us where we can get those resources. And if you don't mind sharing those links with me through email, I'll make sure our leaders get them. But can you tell us where to go to get those free resources again?
Yeah. So go to saddlebackchurch.com/watch. And again, you got to create a free account, but then that'll, I believe, allow you to access all of our free curriculums. And there's all kinds of different ones, kids and youth. Well, that's more small group curriculums. But then you can go to saddlebackkids.com. Amazing resources for, if you guys are okay with that, like if you want your kids to watch Kids Church, that's some cool resources as well. But then go to smallgroupnetwork.com. And that's where you're going to see all kinds of resources related to fellowship, related to whether it's home groups or church at home, on almost every hot topic, right? What to do with a talkative person, what to do with kids, how to take communion as a group, all kinds of cool articles. So I'll send you those links.
I appreciate it, man. Well, hey, thanks for your time. Hey, tell Pastor Rick I said hi, and thank you for allowing you to be with us, man. I appreciate that. But, man, love you, man. Love your family. Thanks for being with us tonight. And for all you RLC family folks, I dropped that Zoom link in the comments. If you want to just join me here immediately when I sign off here, I'll be signing on to that Zoom. And that's where we can interact, and I can hear your feedback. I've seen some questions about what is church from home and different things. We can talk about that and chat it up, but also can share with you some exciting things that are happening and about to happen. So thanks, Pastor Derek.
Hey, thanks so much, man. Love you guys. See you later.